Hello and welcome to another episode of Alan Wrights working on Lucky Gold. And we've just introduced the typewriter from The Shining because we can. Because that's something. It's not the actual typewriter from The Shining. It's a copy, but it's something that a casino might have. So there's a dining room with a log table and a bump set at one end. Of that seemed to matter. That glitter from the back flashed through his mind. That glitter from them. Strange to even focus on it in a casino in a what would we call it? High roller suite. The sink probably had plenty of that, but for some reason, he took another step. Fingers fell. Fingers. But they fingers gripped his arm. Hey, Heather said, as she took a firm grip. The nails her nails bending to pierce his skin. Where are you going? Where are you going? No idea, he replied. I'm lost in here. That was true enough. And something of a conversation killer. Why do you have a typewriter? Why do you have a typewriter? Oh, it's not mine, she said, stepping around in front of him. The pull, the greedy lure of the distant gold dimmed. The casino owns it. It's from The Shining. He blinked at that. It sounded familiar. You know, I said. The Shining. Stephen King, the Overlook Hotel, an axe. They remade it, revisited it back in, what was it called? Doctor Sleep. He revisited. I think I remember that. Not well, though. The book was surprisingly good. I mean, I'd I'd expected, I'd expected King to. Oh, all the stops for a scare, and he didn't disappoint. But really, the book had a much more, what do you call it? Hopeful ending. Fathers and sons and all that. The movie though. I remember liking it. Dennis said the urge to sit down, that his feet were fast. Like you said, plenty of scares and yeah, that hotel. But why this hotel? You know what I've kind of put myself into is doing a Shining homage. I'm not sure if I like that. We'll go with it for now. What the hell? It's a first draft. Hello, Stephen King. If you're watching this, welcome. So, but why this hotel? One of their high rollers must have liked King's work. Either that or someone bought the typewriter and they decided, either that or someone bought the typewriter and then they decided to use it for me. For Beatrix Potter? Apparently. Did she write on it? Did she use a typewriter? You know? Good question. I don't know. And I expect I'm not alone. Mother said, why don't you get yourself a snack? A drink? And we'll, what do they want to do? What do they want to do till their food comes? Cards. No. She's had enough gambling. Talk, I suppose, but I want them to talk while doing something, because you can have a juxtaposition for that. Okay, and we'll talk. Food arrives. The dining room table seemed awfully comfortable. Some reason. I don't really have Daniel's voice down. Yeah, I'll fix it. Sounds like an order. Sounds like an order. I'm getting used to giving them. He looked over at her. But she steered him back toward the living room. He looked over at her, and her eyes, and saw her gaze was fixed upon him. When saw her gaze was fixed upon him. Wasn't his on her. That was one of the first things. Something, the first thing that you've learned in fundraising. Make it personal. Make it personal. Make a connection. Why was it his on her? Make a connection. Make it personal. Don't just expect things to happen. Okay, I'll grab some nuts or something. He said, Beatrix powder, is that the right spelling? Beatrix, probably not. Fine by me. Okay, okay, I'll grab some nuts or something. Something he said. And felt her let go. The pressure on his arm, her nails had left little little reminders behind. Left little prickles behind. A not unpleasant sensation. That became a not unpleasant sensation of relief. Careful, he told himself. Be very careful here. One wrong word, and it'll all go sideways. He was halfway into the other room and headed for one of 3 refrigerators when he heard her say, "There you go. I'll just be a minute." He turned just as the bedroom door shut, and that golden gleam departed. And now we will go and take a look at what she's doing, because she has different expectations. Heather stared at the relic. The gold was certainly shining in the Vegas lights. Brighter than before, certainly. And that, like, as with ever so many things, to be for a reason. So, what are you showing me? She asked it rhetorically. Rhetorically. It didn't hurt to have a sounding board for your thoughts, even if people found it weird. And she didn't want Daniel to find it weird. After all, she just met him. Do you lure people in? That all him? That part of you? Do you lure people in? This was the problem of magic. God, but she hated it. She hated that word. It was a big tent. A big tent of a term. It was a big tent of a term. Because you could stuff all sorts of things under it. Rain on Mondays. Curdled milk. What are some other things? Frogs from the sky. And ever so much more. Humanity was a pattern matching machine. It had to be to survive and thrive. Even when the patterns didn't make sense, they made them make sense. That was the origin of magic. Science, on the other hand, demanded logic and consideration and thought flowing into not theories, premise, hypotheses, and finally theory. Did it rain some days more than others? Sure. Maybe. Or perhaps you just noticed it more on a Monday. Why did milk curdle? biologic process, not because of witches or evil humors. Frogs from the sky was harder to justify. Fortean events always were, but even these had their flow. But even these had their flow. From origin to revelation and back again. Sometimes tenuous, but replicable. But fortune, what she'd been doing with it in particular, and the results she'd compiled, defied that. It was one thing to be lucky when spinning a wheel. It was another to guess. To toss up a pack of cards and come down with a solution. Extraordinary solution. 3 times code 3. Possible, yes. Probable, no. She felt the urge to polish up the artifact. Just give it a quick stroke. For luck. With her life. With Daniel. Wow. Where did that come from? Okay. She glanced at the closed door and could imagine him walking in, arms wide and inviting. Yeah. Be as wet as a rainforest. In moments. And then what? Do you corrupt people? She asked the golden mask. It stoically said nothing. Did you bring him here so I could be even luckier? What's the connection? purpose? What's the connection? What's the logic? There were no answers to it. Which, to be honest, was fine. If there had been, it would only have provoked more. All right, let's do a little italics here. All right, I'm gonna have to leave it there. I gotta figure out what she's gonna do. She's probably going to scramble back through the door, push Daniel out. Into the hall. He'll get his room service there. Maybe meet Miss Kingsley. But no more voices or answers. Or no, I've got to punch it up. Modern. How many pages are we in before we decide to add the ghost of a long past king? 28 pages. 22 pages. Fine. I don't know. I've sort of figured this out. Heather wants him to wait. Goes in. All right. In the past, she'll sneak atop the pyramid to get her phone to work, and then the stones cave in, collapse, and she falls into a hidden chamber. Okay, there we go. Now, I got a couple minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the magic system we're using here. There's lots of different ways you can do magic. Let's be honest, sometimes it's wibbly wobbly because you don't know what you're really doing with it, and it is magic, so you can do just about anything. Alright, I didn't go through my notes. So the magic behind the lucky gold. If I'm spoiling stuff for you, just end the video now and move on. We won't talk too much about this. Alright, magic in here is personal, idiosyncratic, and external. What do I mean by that? It is, quite simply, your magic is something that's you. It's something that you cannot just give it to someone else. Well, you sort of can. But you cannot distill it. You cannot make a science of it. It cannot belong to everyone. It is idiosyncratic, which means every person does magic differently. And what works for someone with, gestures and sigils and maybe incantations will not work with somebody else who, for example, has to draw their stuff in ketchup. Whatever. And it's external. It does not well from within. It is tapped from without. You do not have a wellspring of magic within you. You are tapping external elements with some internal bits, which fits. Because if you don't know how to do that other stuff, you cannot simply do magic, because humanity doesn't do that. At least hasn't so far. And we have to take that into account. If you have magic in the world, there's a question of why hasn't it been revealed? For the big thing, it's really magic is in part a connection to a parallel universe created in the same instant as the Big Bang. The two universes are strung together by the heavy metals that were forged at the hearts of stars. Stars, etc. And these connect across other universes, and the lattice of these connections forms a weave that can be manipulated by certain still existing stars in the other universes, as well as people, because we are all stardust, but not all stardust really matters. I need to work on that line. So there's no genealogy of magic. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters? No, not really. Unless it's pure chance. Unless you can somehow ingest those metals into yourself and metabolize them in such a way that it makes your own magic. Because again, magic is idiosyncratic. It's for you alone. Ritual cannibalism doesn't really work unless you can also incorporate the ethereal web that goes with it. Which means, yes, it's possible, and our big bad is probably going to do some sort of ritual cannibalism, or at least consuming of the metals. Our hedge wizard only has an inkling of how to do that. But we'll get to that. He uses silver, in fact, rather than gold, but he's willing to trade up. So why isn't magic known? And we're going to dip into Mage from White Wolf, the game, and there's a consensus of belief. And if you get enough people together who believe a thing, then yes, you can work miracles, or seeming miracles, but everyone believes it. If everyone doesn't believe it, then there's an innate, people can use magic, but usually it's in a nullificatory manner. They grasp the weave and they want it to remain stable. So there's a collective disbelief when you get a certain number of people that will halt magic because of, their interpretation of it, their own resonance, so will interfere with it. Therefore, mages tend to be recluses for precisely this reason, because you can't work magic in a city. It's really damn difficult. So how are they working it in Vegas? You will notice her apartment is way up at the top. She is a great distance away from most people and in a secluded area. So there we go. The artifact is different anyway. So there's no great wizarding schools because it can't be taught. It has to be learned by experience and effort and all that other stuff. Maybe some basic tips can translate, but also maybe not. Now the soul, for want of a better word, are the ionized liquids of the bits of star matter in the body. The complexities in these connections form the weave, and they can persist for a very long time. There are some old masters who have long since departed when their metals have broken down. However, there's some echoes of achievement live on. And we will meet one of those, the former king of the Olmecs. If you want to look at things in Manchian terms, there's a black universe and a white universe, in balance but borrowing and stealing from each other at intervals. This is kind of the way you have, quarks? You have little particles of positive and negative, what have you, that briefly form and twirl and then vanish into whatever. They form and they go. Sometimes they get ripped apart by massive gravitational fields and go spinning off, which is why you get, was it Hawking radiation? Maybe not. Again, trying to apply science to magic is a tricky bit, because at some point the magic is going to rear back and kick you in the head and say, no, I ain't that. So which universe is black and which universe is white? Who knows? But there must always be a balance. So that's what you want to look at it in Manchian terms. But the important part is the balance, and the magic must be returned in some way. The energies you use, the disruption to leave, must be cancelled out. This is why the artifact eventually brings ruin, at least it did on old civilizations that didn't have a lot of people or wealth or what have you. Things are different in the modern world because there's more of everything, but still the scales must be balanced. And how they are balanced in some way is a question. So, unusually, mages, when they go into contemplation, a lot of time alone, they are not drawing in energies. They are, in fact, giving them away. They are making good with the universe on the other side, creating a void that they can then fill at need. You've got to give to get, so to speak, or you get what you give. Now, for the most part, if there's backlash, if there's imbalance, they tend to be pretty harmless. Maybe you're, however, on a small scale, but draw too much, and your nervous system loses its charge and you fall dead, your iron disappears, your blood becomes useless. Things like that. When people inherently and absently use their unfocused magics, this can happen on a small scale, producing fatigue. Or if they unknowingly give, on the other hand, they become stronger and more energetic at some point of need. The woman who picks a car off her child to keep them from being... So, but we become used to that because that's just sort of the bottom layer. Sometimes people do extraordinary things. And often these are people who have been meditating or have a certain way about them or are very giving or generous. In that way, the more that you're rapacious you are, the more you have to pay for it. It's kind of the balance is a form of justice. Although it's not just for humans necessarily, it's just what it is. Now, do other things do this? Rocks don't do it. You have to be sentient. You have to have a will of some sort in order to act upon the weave in some way. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And that's why mages are people, and you don't have frogs that can turn themselves on, light themselves on fire. A certain level of sentience is required in order to use magic. But most people can, to some small extent. And we'll get into this as we go along. But this has been Alan Wrights, and been working on Lucky Gold. That was the magic behind it, and we're going to see where we go from here with the ghost of an Olmec or pre-Columbian king that has a resonance within the artifact. He was the last person to use it before Heather. But there we go. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this. Stay safe and take care out there. All right. Thanks.